If you've ever wondered how one moment can shatter everything you believed in, stay with me. This is my story. Please like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. I remember thinking that morning how lucky I was. It was a Tuesday in late September, the kind of morning where the light comes through the kitchen window at just the right angle, making everything look softer, kinder. I was making coffee, David's favorite blend, the expensive one he'd discovered on our anniversary trip to Seattle. 16 years of marriage, and I still remembered how he liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of cream, served in the blue mug his mother gave us. That's what love looked like to me. The small things, the daily rituals that become the architecture of a life together. David had already left for his morning run. He'd started that habit about 8 months ago, right after his 40th birthday. Said he wanted to take better care of himself, live longer for me and the kids. I'd supported it completely. Even bragged about it to my sister. Finally, he's taking his health seriously. Our daughter Emma was still asleep upstairs, 17, and in that phase where weekends meant sleeping until noon. Our son Tyler was away at college, beginning his sophomore year. The house felt spacious and quiet, in a way that should have been peaceful. I poured my own coffee and sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone. There was a text from my friend Jennifer about our book club meeting that Thursday. A reminder about Emma's dentist appointment. Normal life. Beautiful, boring, normal life. The thing about happiness is that you don't recognize it as fragile while you're living in it. You think it's solid, permanent. You think you've built something that can withstand anything because you've already weathered so much together. Job losses, his father's death, my miscarriage between the kids, Tyler's accident when he was 12. We'd survived all of that. Grown stronger, I thought. I heard David's key in the front door around 7:15. He came into the kitchen, face flushed from running, his t-shirt dark with sweat. Still handsome at 40. Maybe more handsome than when we met. The gray at his temples gave him a distinguished look, and the running had made him lean in a way he hadn't been in his 30s. Good run? I asked, smiling up at him. Great run, he said, kissing the top of my head before heading toward the stairs. Gonna grab a quick shower before work. Your coffee's ready, I called after him. You're the best, he said over his shoulder. Those were the last normal words between us, the last moment of the before. I didn't know that in less than 3 hours, someone would knock on my door and the entire foundation of my life would begin its slow, inevitable collapse. It happened at 9:47 a.m. I know the exact time because I'd just looked at the clock, calculating whether I had time to run to the grocery store before Emma woke up. I was still in my comfortable clothes, leggings and one of David's old college sweatshirts. No makeup, hair in a messy bun. The knock was soft, hesitant. Not the confident rap of a delivery person, or the aggressive bang of a solicitor. I opened the door to find a woman standing on my porch. She was younger than me, late 20s, maybe early 30s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, jeans and a gray cardigan, pretty in an understated way. She was holding her phone in both hands, knuckles white around it like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Can I help you? I asked, my voice friendly but puzzled. I didn't recognize her. She looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes that made my stomach clench. It was the look of someone about to inflict pain they didn't want to inflict. Are you Sarah Mitchell? She asked. Her voice was quiet, strained. Yes, I said slowly. She took a breath. I'm sorry to come to your home like this. I really am. But I didn't know what else to do. My hand tightened on the doorframe. I think you have the wrong house. Is your husband David Mitchell? Works in commercial real estate? Runs every morning? The specificity made my heart start pounding. Who are you? My name is Olivia. She said it like a confession. I need to show you something. I'm so sorry, but you need to see this. Every instinct told me to close the door, to refuse whatever she was about to offer. But I couldn't move. I stood frozen, watching as she held out her phone with a shaking hand. Please, she whispered. Just look. I took the phone. The screen showed a text conversation. The contact name at the top was just a heart emoji, nothing else. But I recognized the number. I'd seen it hundreds of times on our phone bill, though I'd never thought anything of it. David talked to lots of people for work. The messages went back months. March, April, May, June, July, August, September. I scrolled, my hands beginning to shake. The early messages were professional, polite, then friendly, then flirtatious, then explicit. There were photos I couldn't bear to look at fully, words that made my vision blur. Plans to meet, declarations that made me feel like I was falling through space. But it was the recent messages that destroyed me completely. I love you. You know that, right? David's number, 3 days ago. Tell me you'll leave her. Please, I can't keep doing this. The other number, 2 days ago. I will, I promise. I just need to find the right time. The kids, David, yesterday. You've been saying that for months. The other number, yesterday. I know, I'm sorry. I do love you. This is just complicated. David, this morning, while I was making his coffee, while I was thinking about how lucky I was, I looked up from the phone. Olivia was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. I'm not the other woman, she said, her voice breaking. I mean, I am, but I didn't know. About you, about your family. He told me he was divorced, that he lived alone, that he'd been single for 2 years. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I found out the truth 3 weeks ago, she continued. I was in his car. He doesn't know I saw it. But there was a family photo, tucked in the visor. You and him and 2 kids, everyone smiling, and it had a date on the back, from last Christmas. I felt like I was drowning, standing perfectly still in my own doorway, drowning. I confronted him, Olivia said. He admitted everything, begged me not to tell you, said it would destroy his family, said he loved me but he loved his kids more, said he needed time. Why are you here? I managed to ask. My voice sounded strange, distant. Because I realized something, she said. If he could lie to you for months, he's lying to me too. About everything. About leaving. About love. About all of it. And I thought you deserved to know. That someone should tell you the truth. She took her phone back from my numb fingers. I'm sorry, she said again. I really am. For all of it. For believing him. For not finding out sooner. For having to be the one to tell you. And then she walked away. Got into a gray sedan parked on the street and drove off. I stood in the doorway, watching her disappear, feeling the September sun on my face and the cold spreading through my chest like ice water. The perfect morning, the coffee made just right, the kiss on top of my head, all of it built on a foundation of lies. I don't know how long I stood there. Time had become strange, elastic. I could hear birds singing, a car passing on the street, the distant sound of a lawnmower, normal sounds, life continuing as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I closed the door finally, locked it, stood with my back against it, staring at my kitchen, the blue mug still on the counter, the coffee pot half full, the morning light still slanting through the window at that perfect angle. I thought about calling someone, my sister, Jennifer, my mother. But what would I say? How do you put this into words? Instead, I walked upstairs. My legs moved automatically, carrying me past Emma's closed door, past the bathroom where David had showered an hour ago, into our bedroom, the room we'd shared for 16 years, the bed where we'd made love and argued and held each other through bad dreams, the dresser with his cufflinks in a wooden box, the closet where his clothes hung next to mine. I opened his nightstand drawer. I don't know what I was looking for. Evidence? More proof? As if I needed it. There was nothing remarkable. Chapstick, a phone charger, a book about leadership he'd been reading, his backup reading glasses. But under the book, there was a receipt, from a jewelry store, dated 2 weeks ago. I stared at it. A necklace, sterling silver with a small pendant, $247. I looked down at my own neck, bare. My birthday had been last month. Our anniversary was in November. There was no occasion that would require jewelry. The necklace wasn't for me. I put the receipt back carefully, closed the drawer, sat on the edge of the bed. This is when I expected the tears to come, the anger, the screaming breakdown, but I felt nothing. Just a vast, expanding emptiness, like someone had reached inside me and removed something essential, and now there was just a hollow space where my life used to be. I looked at the clock. 10:23 a.m. David wouldn't be home until 6:30. 8 hours. 8 hours to sit with this new knowledge, to decide what to do with it. I thought about the woman, Olivia, how young she'd looked, how devastated. She'd been crying, and I understood why. She'd thought she had something real. She'd believed his lies too. How many times had he texted her from this bed? From our dinner table? From the car on the way to Tyler's college orientation? How many times had he said "I love you" to her in the same breath he'd said it to me? I stood up and walked to the mirror on our dresser, looked at myself, 41 years old, lines around my eyes, a few gray hairs I'd been meaning to color, wearing my husband's sweatshirt, looking tired and ordinary and completely, utterly foolish. I thought I knew him. I thought I knew us, but I didn't know anything at all. I spent the next hour going through everything, not frantically, not desperately, with a cold, methodical precision that surprised me. I checked our phone bill online. There it was, Olivia's number, hundreds of texts, calls, sometimes late at night, sometimes during his morning runs, sometimes when he'd told me he was showing properties to clients. I checked our credit card statements, dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together, hotel charges in the city, the jewelry store purchase. I checked his email. He'd been smart enough to use a different account, but I knew his passwords. We'd always shared them, a gesture of trust and transparency. How ironic. There was a Gmail account I didn't recognize, linked to his phone number. I logged in. The inbox was full of messages from her. Sweet messages, desperate messages, angry messages, messages that chronicled an entire parallel relationship I'd known nothing about. February 14th, Valentine's Day. He'd given me roses and taken me to our favorite Italian restaurant. That same night, there was an email to Olivia. Thinking about you tonight. Wish we could be together. My birthday, July 18th. He'd made me breakfast in bed and given me a gift card to the spa. That afternoon. Can't wait to see you tonight. Told Sarah I have a late work dinner. Our anniversary would be next month, November 12th. There were already emails planning something with Olivia for that weekend. A cabin in the mountains. A romantic getaway while I presumably believed he was at a work conference. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to my own email. Methodical. Detached. Then I found the photos. They were in a hidden folder. David and Olivia together, smiling. His arm around her, her head on his shoulder. Both of them looking happy and in love and completely real. In one photo, she was wearing the necklace. The $247 necklace that should have been for me. I closed the laptop. The house was still silent. Emma was still sleeping. The coffee was going cold in the pot. The sun had moved higher, changing the quality of light in the kitchen. I felt something then. Not quite anger yet. Not quite grief. Something harder, sharper. Clarity. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a deliberate choice, made over and over again, for 8 months. 8 months of lying to my face. 8 months of sharing our bed while thinking about her. 8 months of planning a future that didn't include me. The man I'd loved for 16 years didn't exist. He'd never existed. The person I'd been married to was a stranger wearing a familiar face. Emma came downstairs a little after noon. She shuffled into the kitchen in her pajamas, hair messy, eyes half closed. "Morning," she mumbled, heading straight for the refrigerator. I was sitting at the kitchen table. I'd been sitting there for over an hour, staring at nothing. "Morning, sweetie," I said. My voice sounded normal. I was amazed by that, by the human capacity to sound normal while dying inside. She poured herself orange juice and turned to look at me. Really look at me. "Mom, you okay?" "Fine," I said automatically. "Just tired." She studied me with the disconcerting perception of a 17-year-old who'd known me her entire life. "You look weird." "Thanks," I said dryly. "I mean, you look, I don't know, sad?" I forced a smile. "I'm fine, Em. Really, just thinking about some things." She sat down across from me, cradling her juice glass. "Is it about Tyler? Is he okay?" "Tyler's great," I assured her. "I talked to him yesterday." "Then what?" God, how I wanted to tell her. To break down and confess everything, and let her hold me while I fell apart. But she was my daughter, my child, and this wasn't her burden to carry. "Just life stuff," I said. "Nothing for you to worry about." She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. Teenagers have their own problems, their own dramas. She probably assumed I was stressed about work or money or something equally mundane. If only. "Are you and Dad okay?" she asked suddenly. The question hit me like a physical blow. "What? You and Dad? Are you guys fighting or something?" "Why would you ask that?" She shrugged. "I don't know. He's been weird lately. Gone a lot. And when he is home, he's always on his phone. And you guys don't really talk like you used to. Out of the mouths of babes." I'd missed it. All the signs she'd apparently noticed, I'd completely missed. Or maybe I'd chosen not to see them. Maybe I'd been so invested in the story of our perfect marriage that I'd ignored the evidence that it was crumbling. "We're fine," I lied. The words tasted bitter. "Okay," Emma said, clearly not believing me but respecting the boundary I was setting. "Well, I'm meeting Hannah at the mall later. That okay?" "Sure," I said. She finished her juice, kissed my cheek, and headed back upstairs to get ready. I sat alone in the kitchen again, thinking about what she'd said. He's been weird lately. Gone a lot. Always on his phone. How long had I been blind? How long had everyone else been seeing what I refused to see? The afternoon crawled by. Emma left for the mall around 2. The house became even quieter. Just me and the evidence of my ruined life, and the ticking clock counting down to David's return. I thought about what I would say, how I would confront him. I imagined screaming, throwing things, demanding answers. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, what was the point? There were no answers that would satisfy me, no explanations that would make this hurt less, no apology that could rebuild what had been destroyed. He'd made his choices, repeatedly, deliberately. Now I had to make mine. I called a lawyer. I'd found her number online, a family law attorney with good reviews. Her secretary said she could see me tomorrow afternoon. I made the appointment. I called my bank, checked our accounts, started taking screenshots of everything. Our assets, our debts, our shared financial life that I would soon be untangling. I texted my sister, "Can I call you tomorrow? Need to talk about something important." She responded immediately, "Of course. Everything okay?" "Will be," I typed back. And then, because it felt true, eventually, I didn't cry. That was the strangest part. I kept waiting for the tears to come, for the emotional breakdown I'd seen in movies 1,000 times, but I felt oddly calm, disconnected, like I was watching this happen to someone else. Maybe this was shock, or maybe this was strength. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Around 5, I made dinner. Spaghetti. David's favorite. The irony wasn't lost on me. One last meal for the man who'd been eating at someone else's table. I set the table. 3 places. Me, David, Emma, normal. Everything normal. Except nothing would ever be normal again. David came home at 6:34 p.m. I heard his car in the driveway. The sound of the garage door opening. His footsteps through the mudroom. "Something smells good," he called out, appearing in the kitchen doorway. Still in his work clothes, slacks and a button-down shirt, tie loosened, still handsome, still familiar, still a stranger. "Made your favorite," I said lightly. "Emma should be home soon." He came over and kissed me, on the lips. Casual, automatic, the kiss of a husband who'd kissed his wife thousands of times. I didn't pull away. I kissed him back, and I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. "How was your day?" I asked. "Long," he said, loosening his tie further. "Had 3 showings. One of them might actually close." He poured himself a glass of water. "How about you?" "Quiet," I said. "Did some errands. Thought about things." He wasn't really listening. He was scrolling through his phone, his attention already elsewhere. With her, probably. "David," I said. He didn't look up. "Someone came to see me today." That got his attention. His eyes snapped to mine. "Who?" I watched his face carefully. "A woman named Olivia." I saw it. The flash of panic. The color draining from his face. The way his hand tightened around his phone. Then, almost immediately, the recovery. The confusion. "Who?" "Don't," I said quietly. "Please don't insult me by lying right now." He stared at me. I watched him calculating, trying to figure out what I knew, how much she'd told me. "Sarah. She showed me everything," I interrupted. "The texts, the emails, the photos, all of it." He set his phone down slowly. "Listen, how long?" I asked. "And don't say you don't know what I'm talking about. We're past that." He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he looked defeated. 8 months. 8 months. Confirmed. The truth, finally. "Did you love her?" I asked. He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "I thought I did," he said finally. "But it's complicated. Sarah, please, let me explain." "Did you love her?" I repeated. "Yes," he whispered. "I think so. But I love you too. I never stopped loving you." I laughed. I couldn't help it. A short, bitter sound. "You have a funny way of showing love." "It wasn't about you," he said desperately. "You didn't do anything wrong. This was about me. About feeling, I don't know, alive again. Like I was young. Like I mattered." "You mattered here," I said. My voice was shaking now. "You mattered to me. To Emma. To Tyler. We were your life. I know. God, I know. And I'm so sorry. Were you going to leave me?" I asked. "All those messages about finding the right time. Were you actually planning to end our marriage?" He looked away. "I don't know. Maybe. I was confused." 8 months of confusion, I said. 8 months of lying to my face. 8 months of sleeping in our bed and texting her goodnight. 8 months of telling me you loved me while planning a future with someone else. Sarah, did you mean it? I asked. The question surprised even me. When you said you loved me, in the last 8 months, did you mean any of it? He looked at me with tears in his eyes. Yes, I swear. I know it doesn't make sense, but yes. And that somehow was worse. That he could genuinely love me and still do this. That love, for him, was so much cheaper than I'd thought. So much easier to divide and dilute and share. I want you to leave, I said. What? Tonight. Pack a bag. Go to a hotel. I need you out of this house. Sarah, please, can we talk about this? We're done talking, I said. You should go before Emma gets home. He stared at me. I think he'd expected crying, begging, a chance to explain his way back into my good graces. But I was done. Completely, utterly done. I'll call a lawyer in the morning, I said. You should do the same. You're not serious. You're upset. I get it, but we can work through this. Leave, I said. Now. He opened his mouth, closed it, realized I meant it. 20 minutes later, he was gone. Emma came home to find me alone. Where's Dad? She asked, looking around the kitchen at the untouched spaghetti. He had to go out of town for work, I said. Another lie, but a necessary one. For now. She frowned. He didn't mention that this morning. It came up suddenly. She looked at me searchingly. Mom, what's going on? Nothing, honey, I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. And she knew it. And I knew she knew it. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the dark living room and let myself finally feel it. The grief came in waves. Not loud, sobbing waves. Quiet ones. The kind that pull you under without drama. I cried for the marriage I'd thought I had. I cried for the man I'd loved who'd never really existed. I cried for my daughter who would have to learn that her parents were getting divorced. I cried for my son who would have to process this from 300 miles away. I cried for myself, for the version of me who'd woken up this morning thinking she was lucky, thinking she was loved, thinking she was safe. That woman was gone now, and I mourned her. But underneath the grief, there was something else, something harder and clearer. Rage. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, determined kind. He'd stolen 8 months of my life. 8 months where I could have been making different choices. 8 months where he'd made a fool of me. 8 months where he'd risked my health, my dignity, my future. And he'd done it while I made his coffee and wore his sweatshirts and believed every word he said. I picked up my phone, opened my email, started writing. Dear David, by now you know that I know everything. And I mean everything. The texts, the emails, the hotel charges, the jewelry, the lies. I don't need an explanation. I don't need closure. I don't need to understand why. What I need is for you to understand this. We're done. Completely. There is no coming back from this. No counseling. No second chance. No working it out for the kids. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. I've contacted a lawyer. You should do the same. We'll communicate through them from now on. Don't contact me directly. Don't try to explain. Don't send flowers or write letters or show up with apologies. It's too late for all of that. The man I married would never have done this, which means the man I married doesn't exist. And I won't waste another moment grieving someone who was never real. Sarah. I read it over. Added one more line. P.S. I hope she was worth it. Then I hit send. The next few weeks passed in a strange blur. I told Emma the truth, or a version of it. Your father and I are separating. He was unfaithful. I'm filing for divorce. She cried, screamed, asked why. I gave her the only answer I had. Sometimes people make choices that break things beyond repair. I told Tyler over the phone. He was quieter, more stunned. But you guys were... I thought you were happy. So did I said. David tried to call, repeatedly. I didn't answer. He sent texts, emails. I didn't respond. My lawyer handled everything. He moved in with Olivia. I learned this from his lawyer during our first mediation session. They were trying to make it work. The irony was almost funny. Almost. My sister came to stay for a week. My friends rallied. Everyone had the same questions. Did you suspect? Were there signs? How did you not know? I didn't have good answers. I'd been blind, or willfully ignorant, or just trusting in a way that now seemed painfully naive. The house felt different, emptier, but also cleaner somehow. Like removing him had removed a toxicity I hadn't realized was there. I started sleeping better, eating better, breathing easier. It was the slow collapse of everything I'd thought was permanent. My marriage, my identity as a wife, my belief in the story I'd been telling myself about who we were. But underneath the collapse, something else was building. Myself, separate, whole, angry and hurt and grieving, yes, but also clear-eyed and strong in a way I'd never been before. I wasn't broken. I was breaking free. 6 months later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Sarah? The voice was familiar, shaky. It's Olivia. I closed my eyes. What do you want? I'm sorry to bother you. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I needed to talk to someone who would understand. Understand what? He cheated on me. Her voice broke. David, he's been seeing someone else. For months, apparently. I just found out. I sat down. The irony was so perfect it almost hurt. I'm sorry, I said. And I meant it. Not for her pain, though I felt that too, but for the lesson she was learning the hard way. I don't know what to do, she sobbed. He promised me it was real, that what we had was different, that he'd never... He lies, I said quietly. That's what he does. It's who he is, but he loved me. I know he did. Maybe he did, I said, the same way he loved me. Which is to say, not enough. Not in the way that matters. Not in a way that lasts. There was silence on the line. I'm so stupid, she whispered. No, I said. You're human. You believe someone you loved. That's not stupid. That's just painful. What did you do? She asked. After you found out? I left, I said simply. I chose myself, and eventually, that started to feel like the right choice. Does it still hurt? Sometimes, I admitted, but less, and differently. It hurts like a scar now, not an open wound. I should have listened to you, she said. That day I came to your house. You could have told me he'd come back, could have warned me this would happen. Would you have listened? I asked. She laughed bitterly. Probably not. Then this is a lesson you had to learn yourself. We talked for a few more minutes. I gave her the name of my lawyer, my therapist, the book that had helped me most. And then I hung up and sat in my quiet house, my house now, legally mine in the divorce settlement, and felt something unexpected. Peace. Not happiness. Not yet. But peace. David would do this again. To the next woman. And the next. Because this was who he was. A man who needed constant validation. Constant newness. Constant proof that he was still desirable. But I wasn't part of that cycle anymore. I'd thought I had an unbreakable marriage. But someone had knocked on my door and shown me the truth. And the truth had set me free. If this story resonated with you, please share it. Not because misery loves company, but because sometimes we need to know we're not alone in our pain. And sometimes, survival is the most radical act of all. Like, subscribe, and remember, you deserve someone who chooses you, every single day, without hesitation. See you in the next video.